The interesting thing about episode 2 was that it was all about a library. It's pretty quiet. It's kind of clean, but a lot of stuff is going on in the background, at least in the narrative of that episode. Just like in episode 3, where everything's out there for the taking for the player to see. It's just like that within the studio as well. Total chaos every single day.
This is, I think, the 3rd summer in a row, and I'm getting real tired of it. We need an AC unit that works, like really works. It isn't just this kind of like damp dew.
Think sauna. Think arms sticking to desks. 93 degrees in Washington, which never happens.
We've packed even more people in there. It's been hotter than ever. We have more fans than ever. There's, construction this time that's, about like 20 feet outside our window. There's literally probably about like a 45-minute period every day where like all the windows and all the walls and doors were just shaking.
The team's getting pulled in 10 different directions on a week-to-week basis, whether it's developing for the Fire Phone or for PC or for Mac.
I would describe it as kind of like controlled chaos.
It gets to be a slog and a grind at times, but it's something that we all signed up for.
I've gotten to the point to where I can just tune everything out, and if something, too much construction's going on or that, I can put on my headphones and just kind of be in my own world while I'm working on the game.
Honestly, I feel like it's kind of making us a little closer because we can smell each other a lot more.
It's more fun, actually. I think it's closer knit because now the artists are just a little bit closer. It just feels more like a family than at least where I was sitting. It was much more spacious, and you can get lost in your work easier. But it's a lot more crowded.
Yeah, when we worked on episode 2, we dusted off the vertical slice and got that to ship quality, and I thought that might be the last time as a team that we would take something that's pre-existing and just start from scratch like we did with 2. Yeah, we did the same thing with 3. While that sounds pretty radical and maybe not the best use of time, it actually, to me, shows that the team's got a lot of passion for what they're doing.
We kind of all unanimously decided that we would start from the ground up. We would say, you know what, no, we're not going to tie ourselves to kind of like these old story ideas, these old environment ideas and stuff.
In terms of the physical form of the level, it changed a lot, but the general idea of the way in which we were partitioning the level into these sections, and I think a lot of that still stayed the same. Before we had these spaces, but we didn't entirely know what was going to fill them, and then once I believe as Ryan Payton actually came up with an idea for the main crux of the space, we understood how the environment could better support that, and so we made those changes.
We pretty much came up with 5 or 6 new, pretty different areas that we concepted, gray boxed, set up encounters and designed pretty rapidly. Overall, the whole design team actually split up episode 3 between them, and we each got our own slice to kind of, prove the features we wanted to do or test out encounters that we wanted.
I started thinking about video games like Night Trap and movies like Cabin in the Woods, and this idea of this whole area that's half double-sided glass, half sort of Houston mission control area, and sort of came up with that space that you see when you enter the last third of the game.
Personally, I had the Morning Bell space, and so this is kind of like the space where it's Maddie's domain. It's where all the staff writes kind of the news articles or the more dishonest propaganda that the overseer has them put to work for.
I think design's kind of begun to understand the art pipeline more, and that's helped us to make choices that I think relieve a lot of the frustrations they were probably feeling from a little bit of a chaotic pipeline previously. Better design understands art, and the other disciplines, the better kind of everything sort of flows. So this episode, we've finally begun to apply a lot of lessons learned, and I think it's made the whole thing go much smoother.
The designers were working in tandem with us. They were being very flexible. If we said we can't achieve this because hardware limitations or just not enough time, they were able to very quickly adjust their process, their pipeline, their story, their progression through the entire experience based off of our restrictions, and that was extremely helpful.
Been a lot of sacrifices I've had to see kind of my baby cut up over time, and we go from these huge spaces that are maybe a little excessive to now what I think is actually feels like a really, really great space, but it's a fraction of kind of what it was originally.
As the team grows, as we gain experience, as we learn more about Unity and the core gameplay loop and what fans like, it's just now part of the process. At the beginning of every episode, we look at what we had previous and we just wipe the slate clean and start over.
Episodes 1 and 2 were roughly 55 pages long. I think episode 3 clocks in right now at about 105 pages.
We had a lot of stuff to unveil in a very short amount of time with episode 4 and 5. And so we decided to actually start to play some of those cards early, very subtly in episode 3.
Hope is at probably her lowest point that we've seen her so far. At the beginning of the game, she just wants to escape, but as she learns more and more about her captors and the other people, her friends and stuff, the other precals that are trapped in this world, she begins to care more about their safety and their escape than even her own.
Now very probably, traumatized and a little distressed about kind of like the events that have played out and what exactly she's actually kind of been playing a part of now with her kind of like new alliance with Maddie.
I'm just really proud of the team kind of thinking out of the box in terms of how to tell the narrative through environment. Especially the 2 Prizrak homes is definitely my favorite part of the experience. Because again, I think it's unexpected. I want to surprise the player.
Yeah, we thought it was really important to sort of get out of this windowless world that is Metamorphosis, and actually, see how it relates to our world, to the real world.
We wanted to really try to create like a moment for players to feel like Hope might have a reason to like question everything that's going on, question their relationship with you as a player.
The whole idea of like freedom, but at what cost, is sort of an ongoing theme of the game, and it certainly relates to Hope's situation.
Well, episode 3, when we were working on it, we knew it was going to kind of feel like Intelligentsia that we've already established, but we were struggling for a while with. Luckily enough, we ended up bringing on an old colleague of mine, Andre Roux, and he just started to dig around. He was heavily influenced by a lot of other games that were doing physically based rendering at the time. And after several iterations, we ended up creating this new world, this new aesthetic. We have a lot of metals, sleek metals. It feels very corporate America.
What you're seeing when you enter the episode 3 space is you're actually entering and exiting several different areas in this ever increasingly large facility. The most exciting part for me was the early stage.
When you're very first starting, at least for the way I tend to build, it's kind of unclear whether or not this is going to work, whether it's going to be fun, whether any of it's going to come together at all.
And we measured out all the spaces in Unity, how all the rooms are going to be. We went to a big open space and just kind of taped it all out so we could really plan the mocap shoots in the space that they're going to be in 3D for all the actors.
Episode 2 we had the cocoon, the big library. Episode 1 we had the big atrium, both which I loved working on. And this time we got the terminus. And it's supposed to be imposing. It's supposed to be, scary and creepy, but also impressive.
Yeah, the main area that I had an influence on was the Atlantic server catwalks, and I kind of wanted the environment to not have a lot of hiding spaces, not have a lot of hack distractions, just kind of be completely dependent on the player's ability to keep moving to the next corner, to the next spot.
Putting our combat and stealth action front and center in episode 3 meant revisiting certain aspects of how Hope interacts with and engages with the guards. So designing scenarios in that latter third of the game where she's placing mines in the environment and trying to distract guards to get them to come by so they can be knocked out. And that's something new for the game.
Well, my personal baby for episode 3 is the Maddie Sade cinematic. Because not only have I been skin weighting and rigging the Maddie Sade character, but I am putting together and polishing that whole scene. And so that whole scene, I'm very attached to it.
A lot of us are getting more comfortable with the process and the production pipeline, and so it's encouraging us to take more risks and try new things.
If there was one thing probably in this whole episode that kind of threw a curveball at me, it was these damn lily pads. I would say the art guys are really big on bringing some life to the scene, especially movement. I have never done it before. I had never animated before, really. And I spent all damn day on these stupid lily pads that I am in love with now, and I hope everybody that sees them loves them too. If you find it and you like it, and you see them moving and animating all like lily pads in the water, send me a tweet.
The lily pads?
Yeah.
There are lily pads in reception?
Yeah, you haven't seen those lily pads?
I don't think so, no.
All right, never mind. Cut.
Episode 3, in my opinion, has been our best landmark that we've hit.
And I think we have nailed it right on the head, and I cannot wait for people to see what we've come up with.
The future is very bright for Camouflage. I think what we have planned for episode 4 is completely nuts, and I think exactly what we need to do as a studio.
Republic is about to get ungodly weird. Episode 4 is going to be a major departure from the structure of the first 3 episodes. From I think from a gameplay standpoint, it'll be a departure, and certainly from a narrative, it'll be a departure.
I'm, experiencing it almost along with the players. So for episode 4 and episode 5, I don't know where it's going. So part of the fun of each episode is getting that story and kind of getting to see it develop.
What we do have in store for episode 4 is going to be something that I don't think fans are expecting. It's definitely not going to be more of the same. And I think by now we've established that with each new episode, it's best to expect the unexpected.